especially my friend Senator Alexander and Miss Meyer. I guess I'll call you Elaine if that's okay, Elaine.
Please.
I want to thank y'all for joining us today in this conversation about these historic artifacts that we were able to accrue from the Museum of Appalachia via Senator Alexander's office. And I have great memories of the Museum of Appalachia. When I was younger, going up there, I guess more or less field trips. Field trips are always a great way to get out of school and you get excited, but we always, the kids from West Hills Elementary School, we dug it. They just turned us loose and we had the best time. I've got a picture of myself somewhere. Before I left, I remember before I left the house, I was wearing my bib overalls and Dad had an old corncob pipe and Mama made me this great big old hat. And I think I won the competition that year in 5th grade. So it was pretty cool. I was, the last time we went, I remembered that my wife and daughter had bought some honey. And to this day, we still haven't figured out where that honey got to. We got home with it. I thought we got home with it. So when I go back up there again, I've got to make sure to load up on it. That's always the Burchett family joke. But before I ask a few questions, I just wanted to see if either one of y'all had anything to say about the barn wall and the artifacts that we got displayed on it.
Well, thank you, Tim Burchett and Elaine Meyer. Let me tell how this came to be. Of course, I've been going up the Museum of Appalachia for many, many years to see John Rice Irwin and the Irwin family. Elaine now runs the place. And so when I was elected to the United States Senate in 2002, John Rice selected 100 items from the Museum of Appalachia and brought them up here himself and created a whole wall in my outer office with these items. They included a guitar made out of matchsticks by a prisoner. John Rice said the prisoner had a lot of time on his hands, and so that's why he did that. They included a shoe fly. You know, back before screens, flies were a big problem, and somebody would stand there with a stick with some strips of newspaper on it, and that was it, called a shoe fly. While you were eating lunch, you shoot away the flies. So a lot of those things were there, and it was so interesting that other senators, other staff members would come to our front office just to see these artifacts of the way people lived in Appalachia over the last century from the Museum of Appalachia. So, and I liked it because the Museum of Appalachia is such a treasure for East Tennessee and helps us celebrate our Appalachian culture. It gave me a chance to show that off. Plus, I figured that all of that was a lot more interesting than I was, and that's what would bring the people to the office. So I'm grateful to Elaine and to the Irwin family and to John Rice for doing this. And I'm so glad that Congressman Tim Burchett has decided to take a sizable part of this Museum of Appalachia exhibit and put it in his office so that when East Tennesseans, and I'm one of Tim's constituents, I vote for him, vote in that district. So when I come up here and go into Tim Burchett's office, I'll see a little bit of home with the Museum of Appalachia exhibit. Elaine, we thank you for that. You may want to talk a little bit about the museum and where it came from.
Yeah, well, we're just pleased that that you had it in your office for all those years. We had so many comments and compliments about that, and we're glad the tradition is carrying on. Yeah, it makes us feel really good because like you say, that the offices are all a little bit the same when you go there, and this one definitely was different. I remember an article that was written on the call, I guess, or in the call, and said it was the most unique office on the Hill. And yeah, it was really, really interesting to go there and to have people talk about that. And we're glad that the tradition is continuing, and because we love East Tennessee. I mean, that's where you all are both from. That's where I'm from, of course, and it's lovely to have something genuine from East Tennessee, because we can all have beautiful artwork from all over the world, or so many things that that are just wonderful, but it's nice to have something that's truly that comes from East Tennessee. So, and it's something that I think we can all lay claim to, such as the picture about the Norris Dam workers. I think you all chose that one. And we were having a meeting today with some folks from TVA, and they were honored that you chose that one, of course. But I think we all have something to say about TVA. We all have something. It's 5 miles from here, but we all have people that either were affected by TVA, or a family member that was a worker or somehow was affected. So I think a lot of these things touch our families in so many different ways. So thank you, Tim, for agreeing to take these.
My mama actually worked at TVA during the Second World War. She was in the civilian Air Corps. She flew an airplane, and then uh, they realized she had excellent math skills, and she later became a math teacher, of course, which was her lifelong profession. But during the Second World War, and shortly after the Second World War, she worked at the TV, as Mama would say, at the TVA. But I mean that I want to show y'all. This could be my favorite one. This is a fish gig. Because I've actually gigged fish, I was looking at some of that stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
Actually, we gig frogs, but it always amazes me how that. I think this was used for hay. It was a pitchfork, obviously, of some sort, and they shortened it, and then they put the barbs on it. I just think it's really cool how folks back then could improvise. Now I'm sure they get it when they improvise. They get on the internet. My daughter, she's always wanting to do, let's make rocket fuel. I'm like, well, baby, I don't know how to make rocket fuel. Well, here's a video, Dad, showing you how to do it. So I just think it's really cool how folks back then. These are like mine and Senator Alexander's folks. I mean, this is where we grew up, and the old carbide lamp out there. I can remember Daddy telling me about, kids working in the mines and stuff. And so
Absolutely.
that stuff really touches me. And the thing I dig about it is it's our history. That wasn't in any of my prepared notes or anything, but that's what I really find cool about the Museum of Appalachia, and just how people just overcome every obstacle, and just they survived and they did well.
Yes. And what you were talking about there is we have a whole exhibit about items that are made from other items. And like you say, now we can look at that. We can go on YouTube or something and figure it out. But back then, they just had to use their imagination and their creativity, and they didn't throw anything away. It wasn't a disposable society. It was just so simple. And that's what we find so fascinating. And I think that's what our visitors find so fascinating is the ingenuity and the creativity of the people, our ancestors. And that's how they lived. And that sometimes made the difference between living and not living, or living a better life, was being able to come up with something creative.
Yes, ma'am. I guess hope it's carried over to me, but Senator Alexander will appreciate this because he knew my mama and daddy. Daddy was a dean at UT, and mama was a longtime school teacher. But I remember during the blizzard of, I guess it was 98, and a lot of people just panicked and freaked out. And I remember coming home, I had this Jeep, it was jacked up. We could get through the snow, and we'd been to the fire department because if you can believe this, they asked people with Jeeps to haul people, the firemen, to their homes, to the fire station so they could get there to go to work. But I remember coming home, I was a little worried about Mom and Dad, and I came in the door, and Dad had his old Coleman cook stove and his old Marine Corps mess kit. And he was heating up a coffee, and Mama had the curtains pulled because the power had been out for 2 days. And Mama had the curtains pulled open, and she was grading her math papers in the, just from the sunlight coming in, and they hadn't missed a beat, and I had buddies of mine that were about to starve to death, and there's my Depression era parents. They just another day for them.
Well, Tim, what other items did you select from the museum for your office?
There's a boot, a little kid's boot. There's the fish gig, and there's the banjo, which I find everybody. I'm going to have to move it. I'm going to have to put a big do not touch on that because everybody comes in the office and they want to play it. And there's several other little items that are just really cool. All homemade kind of stuff. You can tell if they made it out of something else, and I'll figure that out after I look at it long enough.
I think you also got a dulcimer
Yeah, yeah,
and Thomas Galt's Peg Leg,
yeah.
which I love, and a school slate. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes, ma'am. I believe so. So all those things are, the school slate, mama being a teacher and all, and that's kind of cool. All that stuff is it just fascinates me. I when I just recently sold my house and I found behind it, and of course I never throw anything away, and I found this stack of slate. And my wife said, "Baby, what are we going to do with that?" And I said, "I'm going to put it on Craigslist because I know somebody's going to want it." And that's what they got. The person who bought it, they do paintings on pieces of slate, and it was slate that was actually on people's roofs in Westmoreland. So I thought that was, people just, I think when their backs against the wall, that's when they do their best work, and that's people here in East Tennessee.
Tim, if somebody wants to see these Museum of Appalachia items, there in your Washington office, not your Knoxville office, right?
Yeah, Washington office, 1122 Longworth. I had the opportunity to move offices, Senator Alexander, but Isabel, my daughter, said, "Dad, it's easy to remember. You just take the first two numbers, 11, and you double them, and you get the second two, 22, so you won't ever forget it," because I'm kind of forgetful. So now, even if I wanted to move, I can't move now because I've got the sentimental attachment. But I'm in 1122 Longworth, and it's on the first floor. And just please, if you're up here, if they'll after we get through the COVID, please come up and visit because I'm sure people want to come in and see what's going on.
Well, congratulations to you for taking this piece of East Tennessee and making it and putting it in your office, so that anytime anybody comes from home to see you, they can find a little bit of home in Congressman Tim Burchett's office. And Elaine, Meyer, thank you for carrying on the wonderful tradition of the Irwin family. And the Museum of Appalachia is a real treasure for our region and for our country. And we're grateful to you for doing that.
Thank you. And thank you, Senator Alexander, for having the vision and foresight to put these things in your office to begin with.
Thank you, Elaine, for everything. And again, Senator Alexander, I can't thank you enough. It's cool that it's from the Museum of Appalachia, but it's extra cool that it's coming from you in your office because you've been close to the Burchetts, and we've been fans of yours for a long time. Some of my best stories are about in and around you and stuff you've done and your accomplishments. What I always dug about Senator Alexander, you'd see him, he'd be maybe dining with kings, I don't know, big shots, but he always remember where he came from. He'd always mention East Tennessee, something about East Tennessee, and I don't care what he was talking about. And that's something that I've got to do better at because we've got a lot to share about East Tennessee. And
We sure do.
and I Senator Alexander, you're the best. I hope. My daddy used to say, rocking chairs kill more people in this country than wars. And he fought in the Second World War. So I don't want to see you on a rocking chair unless you're spinning some story.
Okay, Tim. Well, thank you very much, Tim Burchett. And thank you, Elaine Meyer. And we'll look forward to seeing the Museum of Appalachia, the Burchett office.
Sounds good. Thank you.